Hello, good afternoon. This is the second webinar for the open call on citizen science initiatives on Radon. So let's engage with each other in the framework of the RadoNorm H2020 project, European project. I'm Meritxell Martell, and I'm the coordinator of this open call on citizen science initiatives on Radon. And together with me, I have two other panelists, Evgenia Tomkin from the University of Life Sciences in Norway, and also Tanya Perko, the coordinator of the Work Package 6 from SCKCEN, and she's the coordinator on the societal aspects in RadoNorm. So Evgenia will present the case she's leading in Norway of the pilot citizen science initiative, and Tanya will be in charge of the questions and answers that you can use in the function. Here you have the Q&A to ask any questions during the webinar, and we will review these questions also at the end. And she will also be responsible to share with you any links that we have for this project. So we will start with this webinar, which will cover the questions and answer, a brief presentation on the main aspects for this call for RadoNorm Citizen Science projects, then focusing mainly on the questions and answers we have received. I have to say that we haven't received yet many questions and answers, but most of them are the ones that we have received based on the eligibility criteria. Then Evgenia Tomkin will give a presentation on the RadoNorm Pilot Citizen Science project in Norway, and we will finish with the questions and answers during this webinar. Let me remind you that the call will close on February the 17th this year, and all the webinars, the two webinars, are recorded, and they will be, the first one is already uploaded in the RadoNorm website, and this second one will be uploaded tomorrow or the day after also on the RadoNorm.eu website, where you find all the information about these open calls. So also let me remind you about the timetable for the open calls. So the call opened on the 7th of November on the Radon, the European Radon Day. And we have the second webinar now, and the call will close on the 17th of February. So during February and March, we will review all the applications that we will receive. We will have a preliminary selection, and we will set a time to interview the shortlisted applicants. So the decision on the funded projects will be made by an advisory board, which consists of different people, 5 persons, 2 from the RadoNorm projects and 3 from external people who are experts on citizen science and on radon, or either one or the other, or even both. During the months of April and May, we will start the negotiation with the funded applicants and the subcontract, and we will sign the agreement. Already 50% of the payment will be made at the beginning of the subcontracting. And we expect the projects to start from May onwards. So you will have 6 months from May until this is October to begin the citizen science projects. And during the second quarter of 2024, we will have a workshop with all the citizen science projects funded. So here you have a QR which links to the RadoNorm.eu website, to the citizen science section of the RadoNorm.eu website, where we have this explanation of the open call for RadoNorm citizen science projects. And why do we want to fund a citizen science project? Well, the overall objective is that citizens and radon experts, they work together on a specific project. Our aim is to increase radon measurement and, very important as well, radon mitigation. And the specific objectives, we expect that the funded projects will be adapted to the local context. So really that you will bring something innovative to your community, to the schools, to the environment where you work in. So what we offer is we have a total of 140,000 euros to fund citizen science projects. So for each project, we foresee a maximum of 25,000 euros. So this means you can apply for 1,000 euro and you can apply for a maximum of 25,000 euro, depending on the scope of the project. And we support this project to deliver 6 months project. So it could be already an ongoing project and you want more support, or it could be a new initiative. Funding will be distributed among various European countries, including associated countries. You will have online support during the project. We will help you from the RadoNorm consortium. We will promote your project also on the RadoNorm website and on the social media. And you will have also presentation opportunities at RadoNorm conferences and other related events. We expect to have peer learning and networking, which will be facilitated through workshops and online tools and regular communication. So you have to understand that we are also learning in this process. It's not that we started with 4 pilot projects in 4 countries, in France, in Hungary, in Ireland, and in Norway. And this has been a testing preparation. So now we open the call and we expect to learn all together with this open call as well. Some of the pilot projects have developed do-it-yourself toolkits, DIY toolkits and materials, which we can also share with you during the project, at the beginning of your projects. So who can apply to this open call? Who is the call for? We expect organizations, associations, consortia, which are interested in promoting citizen science on radon or on NORM, or naturally occurring radioactive materials as well. So organizations can be organizations from the public or the private sectors. So it could be NGOs, it can be educational institutions, research institutes, universities, schools, local authorities, companies, SMEs, etc. But individuals cannot apply. So the applicants must be, for these, legal entities or consortia, which are eligible to receive Euratom funding grants, or an associated country. You have a list also in our documents of which are the associated countries. So if you are a consortia, there should be a leading organization to submit the application. But then all the participants in the consortium should be eligible. But only we want only 1 application per entity, either on its own or as part of the consortium. And if you have any questions, our email address, citizenscience.cs@RadoNorm.eu is available, and you can email us to ask us or to cross-check whether you are eligible or not, or if you have any doubts or any questions. RadoNorm partners may provide support to applicants, but are not eligible to apply themselves. So some of the questions that we have received and some of the answers that we have given for these questions. For example, we received this question: can a self-employed without a VAT apply for a citizen science project? And we understand that a self-employed person is considered to be an entity engaged in an economic activity, following the definition of micro-sized enterprise adopted by the European Commission. And in this regard, they can apply for the citizen science project. Can SMEs apply? Yes, we think that every legal entity, legally registered and operating in an EU member state or in an associated country, also are eligible to receive the Euratom, the Horizon 2020 grants, and they are allowed to participate in 1 application as part of the consortium or on their own. NGOs, we also think that we would like to very much encourage NGOs to propose citizen science projects on radon and on NORM. We also receive a question from Israel, for example, if they can apply. So application and from legal entities and consortium who are eligible to receive Horizon 2020 grants can apply, and Israel is a 3rd associated country to Horizon 2020, so they can apply. Consortia can apply, as I already said. There should be a leading organization, and then the leading organization will distribute the funds on behalf of the consortium. Another very specific question that we receive is, for example, whether a radon fund producer can be invited to sponsor the project. And we like very much also this idea of co-sponsors. So a sponsor can provide complementary funding, can provide products, can provide services, and in this way they can maximize the impact of the project. So we very much like and encourage this idea that industry, that other, in this case, the Radon Fund producer can also be part of this project. The type of application we expect. As you know already, we are focusing citizen science on quite a specific topic, addressing radon measurements and overall mitigation. We want to emphasize this, but obviously we are not limited to that. We are open to proposals on raising awareness of radon, but we want also to make clear that we will not fund communication campaigns, because for us this is not considered citizen science. And for this also I invite you to read our paper that we produced as part of RadoNorm as well, a scientific paper on citizen science and radon as well, where we evaluated radon citizen science initiatives all over the world on radon. Also, we very much encourage projects generating new knowledge around radon and any efforts to foster radon measurement and mitigation. But the proposals is not only for dwellings, so we are open also. It may include workplaces, it may include schools, may include caves, norm in building materials, etc. So it's quite wide in this sense. Any connection with ongoing related programs also, either indoor air quality, cancer, energy efficiency, etc. This is also an asset, a plus. And we, as I said, we don't consider citizen science only communication campaign. So this is why it's important to say that we have a broad, inclusive understanding of citizen science. So we really, for us, it's particularly interesting to fund initiatives which are citizen-led or which are co-created initiatives. We know this is more challenging even, but we would like to encourage this. And also the novel or underexplored approaches are welcome. For example, we give an example here, the circular economy for norm materials. So we will prioritize citizen science application, also addressing mitigation, which is one of the challenges. We are already taking measurements, but the next step, mitigating, is still a big challenge. So let's see if citizen science can help somehow, which is quite innovative as well. What is the funding for? Things to take into account. The funding, the successful applicants, they are responsible for designing, for implementing and presenting the findings from this radon-related citizen science initiative over the course of 6 months. Obviously, the project can go longer, but we will fund these 6 months. The funding can be spent either on salaries or incentives, equipment, for example, dosimeters, sensors, radon membranes, any equipment for mitigation, consumables, catering for meetings, translation, dissemination materials, travel as well, and indirect expenditure. This is the 25% of the total cost. So this means the costs which are necessary for implementing the project, but not directly linked to it. It could be the office equipment, the telephone, the copy costs, the renting, etc. And activities may not receive double funding. So any synergies with other sources of funding are permitted if used for complementary purposes, not to fund the same thing again twice. Here you also have the QR, which takes you to the section of the RadoNorm webpage, where we have the background information and all the information on citizen science on the open call and all the documents and templates. So you see that you have 2 parts in the web, the pilot citizen science projects and also the open call. So here, how to apply. So we have a guide for applicants, which includes frequently asked questions, which you should consult before applying. You also have the templates. There is an application form, and you also need to send that the declaration of honor. And also you have some background information, which is a RadoNorm Citizen Science overview, which was produced also during the project. You have to read we advise you to read the guide for applicants and also the RadoNorm Citizen Science overview document, which might be helpful for you to start preparing the application. So the application is based on a template, which is a Word template. And note that the maximum length of this template is 6 pages. So we don't want you to go over these 6 pages. So we make your life easy in a way, or difficult, because you have to synthesize and summarize your idea and your consortium and the cost and so on. But this is a first step, we think, towards a successful application. And it will be also easier or more difficult for us to rank the different applications and to decide who are the winners. So you should also sign and date the declaration of honor to send together with the application form. And remember that the deadline is on the 17th of February. We don't have a specific time set for that, but we hope to receive the applications during that day. So the application form consists of these sections. So you have to think about an sexy proposal title, and then a summary, a brief overview of the project. Then you have to explain your idea. And we also divided this into which is the strength and the novelty of the idea, what is the relevance to the calls, and what data is collected or used. Then we would like you to think about the impact, what are the expected outcomes, so the value proposition, and then how is the project sustainable. Then you will have to explain to us also the implementation, so the planned activities, what activities you plan, and who is your team. And finally, the resources. So the resources are basically these aspects: personnel, equipment, travel, and other. At the beginning, we thought we would allow subcontracting, but because this will be a subcontracting already, subcontracting or subcontracting, we thought it's better to avoid this. So we deleted this part from the resources. The rules are that you shouldn't change the template that is provided to you and that is available on the website. You should not change the page layout, the margins, and the size of the cells in the tables. As I said, maximum length is 6 pages, and all the questions must be answered. The font size is at least 11, and single spaces. Annexes are not allowed. Any links to website, to any previous work you have carried out are permitted, and the budget must be for the 6-month period, and a maximum of 25,000 euros. Any visual elements are also allowed, but must remain readable for us. How will the proposals be selected? We have an evaluation advisory board, which, as I said, consists of 2 RadoNorm partners and 3 external citizen science and mitigation experts, which will evaluate your proposal. And the review criteria will be based on 25% will be given to the overall concept, 25% to implementation, 25% of impact, and 25% of team. This is why it's so important that you answer each of the questions in the application form. And the reviewers will provide an overall score on a 10-point scale. So every proposal will be evaluated by at least 2 different experts, and the successful applicants will be shortlisted and invited to an interview. So please read the guide for applicants, be brief. Proposal should be in English, but then the working documents afterwards can be in another language, but the final summary should be in English also. So the RadoNorm partners will also support the applicants, or try to support in this aspect. As you know, this project is really composed of a huge consortium. We have 54 partners, I think, from different parts. So please contact those in your country with us in CC, and if you need any support with the application. You can use a specific example whenever possible, and you can use table, visuals, as we said, to bring your point across. But your proposal should convince us that you deserve to be shortlisted. But obviously be realistic. Don't really promise what you cannot deliver. So all sections in the proposals, as we said, are equally important. So just to remind you again, this is the second webinar. It will be published on our website. We are recording it, so it will be published, and the call closes on the 17th of February. So you still have a month to prepare your proposals. And then the citizen science projects will start at the earliest in May, and they can start also from May to October, anytime that is suitable for you. We hope you are aware that we already carried out 4 pilot citizen science projects in 4 different countries in the framework of RadoNorm, which were also over for 6 months, more or less, some of them less than 6 months, some of them a bit longer. And these were carried out in France, or are being carried out in France, Ireland, Hungary, and Norway. So we have already some experience. And also, as we showed in the first webinar, the different countries posed different research questions and had different participation levels in the citizen science scale or grades. So France, for example, the research questions was, how can citizens improve a self-diagnostic online tool, which was already working, was already available, that identifies entry points of radon and proposes possible remediation solutions. In Hungary, this is ongoing. There are 3 schools. And the question is, how can high school students help to raise awareness on radon and promote remediation actions? In Ireland, this is ongoing also, does the do-it-yourself approach help to remove barriers to remediation? And in Norway, they started with a more bottom-up or more extreme citizen science approach, and it will be Eugenia who will be explaining the experience, the case study in Norway. So it is what are the barriers and drivers for citizens' engagement in radon matters. So the recording, as we said, will be uploaded. You can contact us via email here for any question you may have. And now I will we have also YouTube, all these channels, the Twitter as well, and LinkedIn, where you can follow also the project and the news. And I now will give the floor to Eugenia to tell us about how the Citizen Science project is working in Norway. Thanks, Eugenia.
Thank you very much.
Do you want me to share, or you can?
I'm sharing.
Yeah, okay, great.
And then afterwards, we will also address the questions that we already collected in the question answers.
Thanks, Tanya.
Thank you, Mary, for giving us this very detailed overview. And I was thinking, when we were preparing this webinar, is that often I find it helpful, or more helpful, to learn from a very practical case, and not from sort of like an abstract, discussion on the different projects. So I thought to give you some details about what we've actually been doing in the Norwegian Citizen Science pilot, which was the first time for me. It was the first time I was doing citizen science project. So it was really an interesting learning process on how to work with the citizens, and a very giving process, but also a challenging process where we had to figure out things as we went. And I hope by telling you about our successes and also our challenges and how we dealt with them, it can give you a little bit of an inspiration, perhaps some ideas, and maybe also give you a bit of a warning of what to expect and how to deal with the challenges once they appear on your way. So the Norwegian pilot, in a bit, like when we started, we had to even actually start with the location, because while in some countries you have very specific areas where radon is a problem, in Norway there is a variety of areas where radon is a problem to different extents. So we were choosing not just an area that had the potential radon problem. We also thought it had to be an area that's not too far from us, from practical reasons. We have to think through those things as well. But another thing that was really important for us was actually having some local actors that were very, that were positive to this kind of collaboration and would be interested in supporting a citizen science project, because as the university scientists coming to a community and starting this kind of cooperative process is actually quite tricky, because we don't really have a network. People don't know us necessarily, and they don't trust us. They have no idea who we are, and that can create additional level of challenges to the citizen science project. So we chose this municipality of Gjøvik, where the local organization that is responsible for the radon community, for information about radon and sort of the advice about radon, were super interested, and were our partners through all the process and have been immensely helpful to our project. We couldn't have done it without them. The approach, as Mary said, we've flipped the the table around here in Norway, and we decided let's just go for the extreme citizen science, which is not something that's been really done before in the context of Radon. And by extreme citizen science, we mean that the citizens were supposed to be involved from the in all the parts of the project. So they were supposed to be involved from the very beginning, and they were supposed to be involved on, for instance, designing what the project is supposed to look like. It was an interesting approach, but it also had had its own challenges, because it's easier to get people involved when they know what the task is. It's much harder to get people involved when we say, okay, let's come and first define what the task is going to be. It was exciting, and it was very, we had a lot of learning from each other when we did it. But I admit it would have been easier for us if we, since the beginning, had a very clear idea of what we are recruiting citizens to work on. Our research question had to be very wide, because we didn't know what we're actually going to work on, and that's why when we invited people, we were we were very, very open, and we started with just simply looking at what are the barriers and what are the drivers for the testing and the mitigation in relation to radon. We had over 100 participants in the project in total, but the only some of them were very active, and it's kind of stayed with us through the whole period of the project. And then some were involved only in sort of a measurement campaign, or some were involved only in some meetings. So it really varied. We have only a few people who've actually been with us all the steps of the way. So how do you actually find the participants for a project when you don't really have anything to work with? We didn't have any previous initiatives. We didn't have any organizations that, or like NGOs or citizen organization, activist organizations that we could already work with, that were already working on the topic, as it's kind of common for some environmental problems. So we had to really start from the scratch. And in this, the help from the local partners was really crucial, because they were with us all the way, whether it was about hanging up our flyers, and distributing them in the strategic places where people might read them, like at the dentist's office or in a local supermarket, or in schools. The printed flyers didn't work well. That's just the learning that we took. We didn't, because we asked the participants where they found out about us, and well, there was none of them were interested in the project from the printed flyers. And that's actually a feedback we've received from the Hungarian pilot project as well. So that's maybe like a preliminary learning point, that printed flyers and brochures are maybe kind of not the most efficient way of recruiting your participants. On the other hand, things that did work for us was to get the articles, to get articles in the local newspaper about us and about what we do and about the project, and encouraging people to join. We have used social media, but here again, not our social media as university, or as my Twitter as a private, my private Twitter as a researcher, but the local media or the social media of the local actors, the ones that local people are reading. So we've received lots of help from the municipality itself. They've been sharing the information about all of our activities on their Facebook page. They were putting it on their webpage. And that's how we got our participants, because they already have a network that are following them, and that they are trusting them, and so that really helped us to reach the people who live in the area and for whom this could be useful. Another useful recruitment strategy for us was actually to involve our participants in recruiting their friends and neighbors and other people that might have a radon problem. So that was another thing, that how locally word of mouth, which is maybe it's an old style communication, but it works actually. It does get us much more the participants. We had a great idea of having a project t-shirts, which we never actually fulfilled, but I don't know if it would have worked, but I had a colleague who was really, really excited about that. So I wonder whether, maybe printed t-shirts rather than printed flyers. But that's for us to follow up on the next call or a next project. So how do you start when you don't have anything to start it with in a way. And in our project, first of all, we invited people to a workshop. So that was our, everything's open. We talked about citizen science. We talked a little bit, very little about Radon. They kind of already knew about Radon because they came to the workshop, so they were interested. And we talked a little bit about the project and how we organize the project, and how we need to decide what the project is going to be about. And we had little discussion groups, we had post-its, we had posters to draw on, and we focused on these two questions, again related to our research, original research question of what are the barriers, what's stopping people from measuring and from remediating, and what would get people to actually do something about it. So what are the things that could stimulate, that could drive the remediation and testing with regard to Radon. And we had a whole list of things because clearly there are a lot of gaps, and there are a lot of problems in in terms of information, in terms of the expert, not the experts, but like contractors that you could trust will do a good job in terms of efficiency or effectiveness of the countermeasures. So we had a lot of really good issues coming up in these discussions. And what was really what was really exciting was the although in the beginning when we started talking about it, our participants were like, oh, we really don't know anything, it's really such a weird topic for us. But once we started talking about it, they showed really a lot of understanding. And they've pointed out so many things that could be improved in terms of how their local authorities or their local responsible actors should be communicating about Radon and the tests and the mitigation, what kind of information is missing, what kind of, really crucial questions like with the economical support that's gone, about people not being able to afford these things, and how that is really stopping a lot of people to do anything. How it seems like such a hard, such a complex thing to overcome. How lots of people just get, sort of scared to even start thinking about it because they think it's just going to be really hard. But in order to then narrow this thing down, because remember we had a project which was max like 6 months, we had we have sort of we have limited resources, we have limited like work power, let's say it, and as Mary was mentioning, you need to be realistic, and it's really important to be realistic because it's better to have a smaller project but then deliver on the results rather than try to aim for something really big but then not really resolving it in the end because it's just not in your power. So for instance, things we couldn't solve is the economic support for people who do remediation at that particular point, but we've narrowed down our project to two barriers that we chose that we had the capacity, that we had the resources to address. And one of them was the accessibility of the measurements, because as the opinion of the participants was that the measurements, they need to be so available and so simple and so cheap that it wouldn't be, that people don't need to think twice before testing, because in that case, that would really, remove, and make this ordering, really smooth and easy. So we've actually launched a measurement campaign as a part of our study. And we offered free measurements to a limited, sample of people, because of course, we need to be within our project budget as well. And the other barrier we chose to address was this sort of like lack of information, but in terms of in a way of lack of kind of like a general holistic overview of what does it take to mitigate your house? What are the different steps? What are the different resources? Who do you need to talk to? So with this regard, we had two kind of like tasks. And one of them was a development of kind of like, in a way, step-by-step guide, or at least some kind of a document that just summarizes all these different things that you need to know. So perhaps if you are a complete, you know completely nothing, you could, just by reading that condensed information, have a bit clearer idea of what it is going to be what's needed to measure or remediate. And the other task, and the other sort of solution we had was to actually have an open meeting where we would invite people who can talk about, who can explain about the measurements and mitigation, and open it for everybody and have a space for questions and answers, so that to give people a bit more of a feeling of what it's like and what it's going to take them. So in our project, the citizens, they had various roles, and they were involved at the various stages in it. So in the beginning, we started with designing the project with them. They were the ones actually, one of the drivers behind development of the information material. So it was not, I just got to see the final guide. I wasn't even involved in actual process. It was really, they were working with our local partners. They were really engaged, and they were really motivated. They had really helped us to recruit the participants. I think about half of our people from the measurement campaign were recruited by our original, workshop participants, who just kept the ball rolling and got more people involved. And they were involved in the organization of the final meeting. So they were the ones who actually defined who we needed to, who we wanted to invite, what kind of expertise we needed, and who should be there and when. We've had some challenges which were specific to our project, of course, but I think most of the challenges we have are very common whenever you're organizing a citizen science project, or actually in a lot of other projects as well. So I think that to a certain extent, everyone who's organizing citizen science project is going to have similar challenges. And the way we dealt with them is as follows. So first, we had a really hard time to create a community from scratch. If you have already a community that has been working on Radon, perhaps you've had already some project going on, perhaps you had a campaign and you have a pool of people to invite, really, really good for you. I mean it, because we had to start from scratch. But then you shouldn't be afraid of just trying different ways of reaching out. I still want to test out those t-shirts. I don't know if they would work, but I'm so interested to try. But do not focus on one information channel. Try to reach people out in different ways. And do ask your local partners for help, because they might know, if maybe locals are listening to radio a lot, or perhaps here, they usually reach people out through the local sort of an engagement office, or, there is a variety of things that can happen. You could try TikTok, you could try, something, depending on who you're reaching out to, just really think it through and try and see, and take some time. I recommend, that you don't, that you take some time to recruit people. And because I think at some point we had a way too short period when we were recruiting people, and perhaps the information just didn't manage to reach enough people by the time we already had the workshop. Snowball, use your citizen scientists, because if one person is interested and they say, oh, this is a really cool project, come with me, they spread the word to their family, to their friends. It's really helpful. And again, we struggled a bit with the looseness of our project. So I personally think that it's easier to recruit people for a specific task. But by all means, I felt it was really interesting to do it in the extreme citizen science way, but just be ready for that adding a little bit more work to you in order to, it gives you a little extra step of getting people to work with you to define the actual question. The second challenge is a very, very common one for everyone, including, every single one of us. We have a lot of things to do. We have jobs, we have families, we have interests, we have social life, and it's hard to get people to commit the time to citizen science projects unless it's something that they already do as a hobby, or that's something that they're already very interested in, for instance, if they are environmental activists. So the participants were a little bit reluctant to, volunteer for things, because they were afraid it's going to, they never knew how much time it's going to take from them, or how much work it's going to result in. So I'd say it would be very helpful if you develop concrete tasks, something that's, predictable, something that we know, this is what it's going to be. and you negotiate that in the beginning, because then it will make it easier for people to commit. You should also allow people to be engaged in the different stages, or to the extent they want. And it does add a little bit of more work to you, because I felt it was a little bit more complicated for me, because I needed to keep in mind, that we have the group that works on this and we have the group that works on that. But in that way, you can get more people involved rather than having just a few that are actually committing to to go to the end. And also, unless you have a sort of really bottom-up initiative where the citizens themselves want to drive the project, you'll have to help them out, and you have to help them motivate them. You have to help, hold their hand a little bit, give them a little bit of advice, perhaps taking over some tasks, because it's going to be challenging for them to start it on their own. How often should you really communicate to people? And in my case, I was really afraid that I'm going to overload them, that I'm just going to be, that they're going to block me in the end because I'm sending them too many messages. But then when I thought back about the project, I was thinking, oh, perhaps we should have had a bit more, we should have discussed or agreed on a more on our information strategy, on our where do we want to be communicating. Maybe we could have like an active Facebook group or a WhatsApp chat or something, so that people felt a bit more in a group, and we had a little bit more information, exchange. So that's something that I'd recommend you really discuss in the beginning with the people. What are their expectations? What are their their preferred communication channels, and just really discuss it so that you all agree how it's going to be. But of course, it's not only the challenges. I also felt that this project, despite sometimes a lot of frustration and sometimes a lot of work writing emails and coordinating things, it was actually quite a success for a pilot project that we've started completely from scratch. We had about 100 people measuring their houses for radon. We are having our open meeting next week, and we have the experts coming in, and we have like our information campaign inviting people to come. So include the ones that have been part of our citizen science project, but also the other ones who are interested. That's going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to it. We have this radon guide that we're going to kind of launch on our open meeting. We're going to make it available for everybody on the local web pages. That this guide that was developed with our citizen scientists, and we have with this project created a little network, and we've met really good local partners who are perhaps interested in continuing this work, and maybe they will even apply for this call. So we are currently discussing about it and talking about what kind of ideas they have. So if there are some take-home messages, just to sort of just sum up my feeling about it, is that it's actually fun. It is. It's really giving. It's really giving to work with people, and we'll really learn from each other, because it was really funny to see us in the beginning of the workshop, and then in the end of the workshop, when we've already in the end of the workshop our learning was higher, just because we've discussed and we've figured out things and we exchanged. I think that if you're working in a community, local partners are super crucial. They play so many roles. They really give you like a grounding locally, and they have contacts, they have networks, they can really help you to succeed. I recommend that you clarify and discuss all the tasks and expectations with the people. I mean, don't be afraid to talk to them, but it's just very important that they know what to expect from you, and you know what to expect from them, so you avoid misunderstandings. And although I recommend you plan for both communication and the process, but also be open, and just be ready to improvise a bit and adapt and work out with people and find a plan B, because it's not always expected. It's not always the way you've planned it, and it's also okay. I think leaving this flexibility to the project and letting it live its life, it's also very important. So thank you very much, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thanks a lot, Evgenia. This has been really, your insights, I guess, are really helpful, because your first-hand experience, you launched a citizen science project from zero, from scratch. So it's really useful to learn from the successes, but also from the challenges you are still facing. So thanks a lot for your motivated speech. And now, Tanya, maybe you can summarize the questions and answers that we've been receiving.
Meanwhile, we had quite some vivid discussion. It was around 17 questions that we got in the question answers. I really fastly responded to all of them, but I would like to really go really fast through it so that you can also help me. And to one question I was not able to respond, so I need your help for sure. If we will not be able to respond now, we will definitely come tomorrow to you back with a question, with the answer. So it was a question: can mitigation costs be funded if an actual mitigation is part of the project? Yes, for sure, if it's part of the project, also this. But of course, it doesn't mean that you do just mitigation of one house and that's it. It should be citizen science project, and the criteria now are clear. Of course, mitigation, really welcome objective of your citizen science project in RadoNorm. The next question was the team of the applicant, if the team of the applicant must have an expertise in radon research. No, definitely not. You even don't need to be researchers through the project. You will become, you will get expertise, you will learn, you will develop, and you will become an expert for the purpose of your project. But you don't need to have an expertise in the RadoNorm. However, we advise you to take a contact with the experts related to radon, or to ask for advice. You can also come to us, to the RadoNorm, and we will pinpoint the experts in your vicinity that they can help you, update you what is needed, what is the state of the art of knowledge, and so on. But you don't need to have an expertise in radon at this moment. Then is the question, can students be included in the project team? Yes, of course, they can be included in the project team through the university, through the association, through some groups. Of course, students are really welcome, and especially also, for instance, we have this project pilot from the Hungary, where free schools are involved, and the students there, they are contributing to the citizen science project in the field of radon really, really nicely. So yes. Could you...
Claudia is also asking if they can be remunerated. I understand the students. Well, this poses a challenge. Also, are the people involved or students involved because they want to be involved and they have an interest, or just because they will get some money or some incentives? So you have to think about it. I mean, we clearly stated where the costs can go, and part of these costs can go to personnel costs, so and incentives. So you have to decide if it's worthwhile and what are the advantages and the disadvantages. They can be remunerated. We don't know if this is the best way to incentivize a citizen science project, but it's up to you to really decide in the end what is the best thing.
But definitely all costs can be covered.
Yes.
They have the sandwich that you will give them, the coffee that you will give
Yes.
them, the transport, accommodation if you need it. All this can be,
for sure.
covered. But also, if you think that some motivation is needed, it's also possible, but you will need to justify it well. Then another question is, could you repeat what do you mean about the reaching out to radon partners for advice? This means that we could get a feedback from you about our proposal. For both things is yes. You can get your feedback on your proposal already now, so that we can help you, the citizen science team can help you to improve your proposal. But with this statement, Mary mainly meant that if you need some up-to-date knowledge about what is the situation now about the radon or norm, we can put you in the contact with the experts that they can the most appropriately serve you in the writing proposal with the knowledge that it exists, or they are in vicinity from your country or something. Because the RadoNorm has more than 50 members, consortium partners, and these consortium partners will be really happy to help you, to assist you if you are preparing the proposal. But don't come too late. Huh? So our experts are quite busy. So it's really time that you contact them as soon as possible, not 16th of February. Then the next question is, there is no hard and fast rule about the distinction between equipment and other costs. Here I will need your help. Small items such as sensors may be budgeted as other goods and services. Can you give more details about how to distinguish equipment from small items? Where to put small electronic devices, detectors?
Yeah, and I cannot help either, apart from what is mentioned in the guide for proposals. So we understand it's quite tricky. I'm not an expert in these economic things, but so there is one thing, which is the equipment, which I understand what we say in the guide for applicants. The equipment with a useful life in excess of the project duration can only be reimbursed to the extent that the asset would be depreciated for the 6-month project period. So the cost for example, equipment rental for the project period can be charged at full cost, as long as the rental cost is not greater than the depreciation costs. So here there are a lot of things involved, the depreciation, the costs, and so on. But as we said, the small cost, the small electronic devices, detectors, can go to goods and services, and this would be okay for us. So if we say this in the application, then it means that you can put the electronic devices and detector in the small items.
But if you hire them, it can be also in this 20% of extra costs if you need them, or indirect costs. You can also hire them for
but
this.
We can still ask our legal, as you said, Tanya, maybe the persons who will be in charge of the subcontracting to make sure what is equipment and what is other goods and services.
But we will help you this also later on. If you submit a proposal, these kind of things can be also solved later on, so that you will know in which quotation do you put it. But for instance, in Hungary now, we bought a small equipment, different dosimeters to be installed in something else, and all this is eligible.
So we also bought the measurement. We both bought detectors that we gave out to people as the part of the project.
Yes. Okay, then is the question, is there any objection for the application to replicate or copy one of those pilot projects? No, there's no objection, but we believe that you can do it better, that you can learn from our experiences. You can avoid these challenges that we were faced with, but also a citizen science project, it's really great if it's adapted to the cultural context, to the geological context, to the whole context that you have in your country where you apply this citizen science project. So you can replicate it, but you can even do it better. So can you tell us what is overhead of 20? What the overhead of 20% means? 25% means. These are all indirect expenditures, for instance, costs which are necessary for implementing the project, but not directly linked to it. For instance, office equipment, telephone, copy costs, renting the apartment, I mean the building, or the tools or something. So everything what is not directly linked to the project. Okay, so Mary, do you have some comment?
No, this is okay. It's the same in all European projects. They always have this 25% of indirect costs, which are not linked, as Tanya says, directly to the project, but you still need to develop your project.
Yeah. If we have, the question is, if we have to avoid subcontracting, how can we hire a builder to install the pumps, for example? So, for instance, in Ireland, they also, or in France, they also hired some experts to do some stuff. However, even better idea is get this builder on board, get this builder in the consortium and make this builder a partner. So then this would be avoided, and this builder would work together with other citizens, and so this would be a good idea. But subcontracting is also possible, I think, but it's good if you can avoid it as much as possible. Then the next question is, will it be possible to use RadoNorm toolkit that have already been developed by pilot projects, video explaining remediation options in Ireland? Yes, of course, everything what we collected now, what we develop now is available and will be available for you and also for the broader society. And then the question is, can we use the money to calibrate the equipment? This is a question from accounting from Bulgaria, from Krimina Ivanova, who will report for the money. So yes, you can also use the money to calibrate the equipment if this equipment needs to be calibrated for your citizen science project. You will need to report to my institute, SCK-SEN Institute in Belgium, and we will carefully check everything, but also we will be always available for the advice, or we will help you to address all the issues that you will have with this. We have a really nice accountant expert, Brent. We already adopted him for the citizen science project. And then the last question, oh no, it's not the last. Can the regulatory authorities responsible for radiation protection and radon apply? I think yes.
Yes, they are legal organizations in a country, so yes, and the same for a laboratory. Can they apply? Yes, you can apply. Any legal organization established in a country can apply. So yes, we encourage.
It would be really great if authorities would also collaborate. Yes.
Yes, there was also a question, a sub-question that maybe you didn't see from Alsveta. Will it be possible to translate the video to local language and upload this translation to the video? I'm not sure what you mean.
Probably this toolkit.
The toolkit from Ireland. Yes, you can use it as part of your citizen science initiative as well.
Yes.
No?
Of course, yes, you can also translate it, or we can.
But this is not the main objective, right? Okay, the main objective is really to develop something in these 6 months, a citizen science initiative. And then there was one for Eugenia. How can you handle these 100+ participants? Within what time period, and how time intensive is your project? So, and Eugenia has also replied, our participants were involved in different ways. So a lot of them were only involved in testing campaign and will be coming to our open meeting. So 10 to 15 participants were involved in a more interactive way. So it was okay. So let me tell you that in some cases, in the end, the participants really engage and who come to all the project meetings and so on are a few, because as Eugenia said, we all had a lot of things to do and we are busy. So yeah, this is what happens in the end. But any initiative will be welcome.
Yes. So this was everything what was in the chat area. Please, we are in the next, until 17th of February, we are available to help you. You can also write, like we said before, on the Citizen Science RadoNorm at EU.
CS calls at radonorm.eu, but it's on the website, so you can.
Yeah, and it's also in the chat. So you can always write to us, and we will come back to you with the answers as soon as possible. But start preparing and making contacts for the consortiums, and also to contact. Feel free to contact any RadoNorm member. Consortium member in your vicinity, or if you look for the expertise, epidemiology, dosimetry, mitigation, all this is available in this RadoNorm project.
So, okay, just in time, 1 hour long webinar. So thank you very much to my co-panelists, to Tanya and Eugenia, for your excellent summary, Tanya, and for responding to almost all the questions that we had. To Eugenia for the excellent presentation, and all the participants also and attendees for your interest in this project. And we are looking forward to reading your proposals. Thank you very much, and see you soon. We are always available. Have a good remainder of the day.
Good luck all. Hope to see lots of good proposals.
Fingers crossed. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.